Welcome to the Marketing Report. My name is Russell Pearson and this is episode number 51. The Marketing Report is a podcast for passionate yet frustrated business owners who are looking for a competitive edge. Now, today's episode is a little bit different. In fact, we're going to be a little bit different for the next few episodes as we create a series on ethical business. Now, I'm doing this in partnership with Moral Fairground, which is a fantastic organisation that its purpose is to raise awareness around fair trade and ethical business throughout Australia. And one of the things that they're doing to do that is that they have an event, a festival, if you will, that has gone completely digital this year in 2020, starting on the 30th of November. And I think it goes for a full month, called Fair at Square. Now, for part of that, we're going to be actually doing a whole bunch of videos, interviewing people who are running ethical businesses and talk to them about what it is to run an ethical business and how do you do that sustainably. So it's my absolute pleasure to welcome our first guest in this series, Pru McMillan from Community Projects WorldWide.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Fantastic to have you here. So I've got a couple of questions that I did shoot your way, but I'd love to have a conversation. We can go a little bit deeper. I think first, let myself and all the listeners know, what is Community Projects WorldWide? What does it do?
We started Community Projects WorldWide about 20 years ago after we'd been working in tourism and backpacking around Africa, Papua New Guinea and far north Queensland. When we're in Africa, you get an immense attachment to the country and to the people. We could see a huge range of handicrafts that were being made at a very village level, and they were made extremely well, and they were creating employment and feeding families and whole communities, but they just had nowhere to sell their products.
Okay.
So we sort of started with small groups and basically buying their products, bringing them into Australia and selling them directly in Australia, wholesaling them to other shops and galleries and also in our own retail shops over time. So creating a market for communities that just have nowhere to sell their products and really benefiting and seeing the long-term benefits and sustainability of that type of business model.
And so do most of the products still come from Africa, or have you stretched out to other areas?
Yeah, a lot of our products do come from Southern Africa, so a lot from Swaziland, South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Kenya. But we have also branched out into Peru, Ecuador, Chile, Southeast Asia, India, basically any group. As we've become more experienced and been in the market for a long period of time, people know us. And so we're always being approached by people saying, oh, my daughter's been working in an aid group in Kenya. They make these amazing necklaces. Would you be interested in selling them and promoting them in Australia? We always say yes. You know, please send us their information, send us pictures and their prices, and let's see where we can go from there. Of course, not every project gets across the line because there's a lot of difficulties with doing stuff like that. But yes, it's been interesting and very worthwhile to branch out worldwide.
Yeah, fantastic. There's a couple of interesting questions there off the back. One is more of just a straight business question, which is, did you ever branch out into the retail space, or has it always been wholesale?
We've actually started in retail.
Okay.
When we first decided to do it in the year 2000, we started with a little retail shop and went back to all the groups and the people that we knew whilst we were living in Africa. Mm-hmm. And then we decided that we'd like to try wholesaling. So then we also added that as part of our business, and we've been wholesaling ever since as well. And then we went, in 2007, we opened our first shop. Yep. Followed in 2008 by our second shop.
Oh, wow.
And so what we find is that having a dual presence is really good, because in our retail shops, we can test the market, we can buy in smaller volumes so that we can get the product right. We can make sure the quality is good, and quality is a major issue, because fair trade for us means a quality product that is made fairly and ethically.
Yeah.
We don't want to sell something that's going to break the first time that it's used. So we can test all of that in our shop, plus also tell our message directly to our customers. But then we also have so many customers Australia-wide that want to sell it in their shops as well. And that's where the wholesale part of our business comes in.
Yeah, it's fantastic, because a lot of the time someone will start as a wholesaler and they'll go that way because they don't want to have to deal with the customer, so to speak, although there are customers obviously in wholesale. And then they go, well, actually, I want the margin. I actually need the margin in some cases. And so they go to push into the retail space and often annoy the wholesale market. So I think I really like the way you've done that, where you've actually started in the retail and then use that as your test bed to actually move out to other opportunities.
Yes, the beauty of having the dual strands in your business is purely logistical. Yep. Wholesale allows you to order in bulk and order a large amount from your groups and order regularly. And that way we containerize. We bring 20-foot containers into Australia, so we can import products like glassware and bulky items that you just can't air freight. So our philosophy has always been keep our margins really low, and sell as much as we can for our groups.
Make it up on the numbers, as they say.
yeah, because the group that's in a really low socioeconomic area, or with 80% unemployment, they don't want to sell you 10 baskets that you make a lot of money on. They want to sell you 300.
Yeah.
And have the orders going through and that are repetitive. And the beautiful the byproduct that we've found from our business is that it gives our groups, and especially our smaller groups, our smaller family groups, such security, because they know that we'll be ordering from them possibly 4 or 5 times a year. They can plan in advance.
Yeah, great.
So we have one gentleman that we've been, I think he was nearly our first supplier. We've been dealing with him for 20 years. His name's Givemore. He makes wire beaded animals for us, and he's been able to educate his 3 children at a very good school, because he knew he always had that work to be able to pay the school fees and to be able to provide for his family, and that's a really important part of anyone's life. Just having that security.
What a fantastic English pronunciation.
Yeah.
Givemore, yeah. So you did touch on the process of the philosophy of ethics around the fact that it's not just doing the right thing by your suppliers, but also doing the right thing by the buyer. Can we expand that a little bit further? What does ethics mean to you?
When we look at ethical businesses, it's a transparency is very important, and a lot of our customers want transparency. So they want to know who's made the product. They like to know what conditions the people are working in, how much they get paid for a product, and that the money flows down the line. We're a social enterprise, so we do run it as a business, and we have to do it that way, because that way it's sustainable.
Yeah.
But ethically, for me, we follow the fair trade principles, which is equal opportunity for men and women, equal pay for men and women that are doing the same jobs, access to improved education, access to social benefits, to health care, opportunity for advancement, so they get a lot of training and they can make a better life for themselves and their families.
Yep.
And not taking advantage of situations. It was really obvious to me, 15 years ago, we did a buying trip to Mozambique.
Yep.
And it was really raw back then. It was just opening up. There were villages that we went to buy jewelry from, and they literally, the lady had said they hadn't eaten in 2 days. Now, we could have gone in and drove a very hard bargain because they were desperate, but that's not ethical. You pay a fair price for something that is worth a fair value. And that, I think, sums up what ethical trading is not taking advantage of people that are in worse situations than
and
yourself.
I was actually going to ask you about that too, because one of the things is that you said before that you'll ask the supplier the price.
Yep.
Now, in some situations, they may not have actually had those transactions in the early days. And so is there education for them in that? Is there saying, what's a fair price between these goalposts?
Yep, absolutely. There's a real learning process for everybody. We learn what we can actively sell a product for. Mm-hmm. There's no point buying a product at a very, very high price and then not being able to sell it, because that doesn't work for anybody. But on the other hand, the price does have to be fair, and it has to reflect fair wages, fair effort. And so generally what we do with our business is we pretty much pay the asking price. The artisans will present us with the goods. We don't actually manufacture. We pick the best products that they make because they make them well. And so we pay their price. We actually pay them in advance. When we make an order with people, we usually put down a deposit straight away, which is usually at least 50%, if not more. Mm-hmm. And then before it's even shipped from South Africa, we pay in full. Yeah, it usually takes about 5 months before that product actually gets to the market. And there's a lot of faith and a lot of trust involved with our business. But interestingly enough, I'm very proud to say that in 20 years, we've not been ripped off once.
That's fantastic. That's almost surprising, especially when people act with good faith, from time to time, maybe even 1 in 100, someone will take advantage.
Absolutely. And we're handshake people. Like, we don't have legal contracts. We don't have delivery dates. We work with people in a reasonable fashion. You have to be fairly flexible because nothing runs to plan, especially this year, as you can imagine. So it's just being reasonable and understanding of different people's circumstances. So, I mean, again, another interesting thing we found was, especially in the early days, there's more of a risk for your supplier to make you 300 pieces of an item, which isn't a lot. When you talk about things that are mass produced out of China and India, different places, they won't even bat an eyelid for 300 pieces. But you can imagine a fellow that works in a small village, it costs him a lot of money to get the materials to make that. Now, if he's got that ready for you to go and you disappear, then he's lost. Where does he sell it? He's lost everything. So there's faith on both sides of the deal. And our groups, we have been dealing with for a long time, and we have a very good reputation wherever we go. And so people are very happy to work with us, which is very nice.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And do you have like a fairly strict policy, process, what have you, to take on a new supplier? I guess at the start, it's a significant risk because you don't know what you don't know, but now you do know what you don't know, and you've had that good return of karma, I guess.
Yeah.
But do you still have policies and processes as to how you select or approve a supplier?
No, we actually treat every group individually.
Yep.
We definitely get to know them personally. Like, it's not something that we just see a picture and we'll go with that. We have met the group, we see the group, we check out that the conditions that they're saying is fair trade and ethical is, and there are products that we look at, and I think it's the flexibility of having your own business, is that we can decide, look, there's not a real margin in this product. It's going to be difficult to sell, but this is a really great group and they're doing really great things and they really need to get started. So we can take a really reduced margin and just try it, just give it a go.
Yeah.
And then you can go from there. So we're not hard and fast. The first product we ever took on was we call them our Goodwill dolls, because they're made by a pensioner group in Soweto, just of pensioner ladies that would go to an old disused childcare centre, and this was 20 years ago.
Yep.
And they would make these cloth dolls and sit and support each other. But the price they wanted for them was way too expensive. Like, there was no way that they would ever sell. And so we took that product on and we passed it on at cost. And we asked our wholesale customers that bought it if they wouldn't mind passing it on at cost as their goodwill gesture to this group.
Yes.
And our customers loved it. It had a card with it. All our products come with an information card telling you about the producer, generally a picture of them. There's all that information on our website. And our wholesale customers loved it. In the first year, I think we sold something like 2,000 dolls for that group. Purely. Brilliant. Now, we didn't make any money.
No, that's the thing.
They did. They were absolutely thrilled. And these are grandmas raising their grandchildren. So there's so much more involved than just transactions.
That's a large part about what makes it a social enterprise too. It's for community. It's for people. Potentially above profit in that sense. We've still got to have a sustainable business. It still needs to run in a way that it keeps itself going. But I love that you've taken that chance. Actually, moving into that, the start of the business, I imagine it may have even changed over the last 20 years, but I'd love to know, like, you told me about the story about how you found the situation or the opportunity, but why did you start a social enterprise then? And why do you continue it today?
We never set out to start an ethical social enterprise. I think it's just who we are. Yeah. After working in hospitality and tourism for 10 years, as I say, we managed safari lodges in the Okavango. It's heaven on earth. We just wanted to keep that connection with Africa. We enjoy traveling. We enjoy meeting new groups, and we like going off the beaten track. So that was really appealing. The travel's a little bit trickier now, obviously, with COVID, and we have 2 children in the meantime, which we take with us.
I bet. Great.
And they go, and the groups love them too. I mean, everyone loves your kids. So it was just a natural fit for us. We were never going to be the type of people that just bought screws out of China. Like, it's just a natural fit for us after having the connection with the countries and the cultures, and seeing the beautiful handicrafts that in a lot of ways they're almost losing some of the skills. We've got a beautiful elephant tree. It's called it's hand woven branch of a tree of ironwood that has a herd of 8 elephants walking through it. Absolutely magnificent. Unfortunately, that Zimbabwean fellow has died now, and hopefully he has passed that skill on. It's like the grandmas teaching the young kids how to weave. If they know that they can make a living out of that, they will learn those traditional techniques. And I think if they're never supported, a lot of those histories and cultures are going to be altered.
That's a question. You said about sometimes you'll go in and just like look at the situation and look, it's just not going to be viable, whatever it might be, right? Now, sometimes there's an exception to that. But do you ever then talk to that community and say, look, what you're working on right now isn't really viable, but if you shifted that skill set to here, we might be able to actually do something?
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very much so. I was really fortunate to be invited to be on a speaker panel for a conference in Morocco called Trade Plus Impact for Women-Led Businesses. And that was very much about bringing together producers, importers, web designers, all levels of the equation to have a discussion about how things can be sustainable, because it's very hard for the producer to understand that they get the least money out of a transaction. because at the end of the day, the person that probably makes the most money is the retail shop that buys at wholesale and then sells at retail because they've paid the most for it, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've forgotten the question.
do you get? It's about getting them the chance to actually shift what they're doing to something slightly different. Yeah.
Yeah, and yes, exactly. And that's when we'll say, look, this product is hand woven baskets is the perfect example for this.
Yeah.
My husband Murray has just been in Zambia on a buying mission, exactly doing that, going with a group of people that were going out into really rural areas to make really beautiful woven baskets. But the logistics of bringing that basket into Australia through quarantine and the transport, freight, etc., just puts it way out of reach of what a normal person would pay for a basket. Especially when we have the competition of woven baskets so closely, like Vietnam and different places. So that's when we can say to them, this is a beautiful product, but unfortunately in our market at these prices, it's just, it can't be viable for us. But hopefully for them, it is viable in somewhere like America or Germany or different places. But they do take that on board. And I think that's why they like our Australian input, because, quarantine laws are very strict, which of course they should be.
Yeah.
And the logistics of getting things to Australia is very difficult as well. So absolutely. Yeah, they take it on board, and we can even say to them, look, if you can just drop this price by 10%, you don't have to, like, it's completely your business. Yeah. But if you could drop it by 10%, it will be able to put it into a price bracket that might be, say, $45 instead of $69. And that just makes all the difference. Yeah, you will sell much more. These are the price points we need to work with for this type of product. And they're really appreciative of that, and also of new ideas and new designs. We do, they love the fact that, we can suggest some new designs or some new ideas, because as you can imagine, you don't get very much different ideas and stimulations in a little village. So to know what the current colour trends are, or what people are looking for, or what's popular, whether it's design or it's texture, they really enjoy that feedback, and I think it's very beneficial for them.
And that's the other thing too, is like, if you've got customers who've bought like 3 baskets and they love the style, they're like, well, I can't buy another 3 baskets. What else do you have? What else can we actually work with?
Yeah, and that's the real beauty of our shop. We found that not many wholesalers have as large a range as us. And when we open our stores, we can fill our shop 100% with our products. And it's an awesome, interesting shop that sells jewelry and candles and wind chimes and recycled wine glasses and scarves, and it goes on and on. And then we have the opportunity to support other fair trade businesses and buy their products and add in something that we don't source and we don't buy. So to have that variety, when people come on our website, they might think, oh, I want to buy that lovely bag from Kenya, but oh gee, that jewelry's lovely, or there's something for everybody, which is great.
Now, one of the questions I was going to ask you was about, who would be the right sort of customer, but I think the reality is the produce that you've got and the variety you've got, there's probably something for just about everyone. But I guess from a wholesale perspective, though, who's the right sort of wholesaler? So who's the sort of the best retailer for you? Do they need to follow or at least have that same sort of ethical perspective?
Yes. Look, they don't have to. But we certainly prefer if they do. Yep. We supply all the zoos in Australia, so all the major zoos in their gift shops. They're very much now buying predominantly, if not completely, fair trade products and ethically made products, which is really a really great initiative. The main thing our customers love is being able to pass on the stories of our groups. Which they get from us, which they get from the information that they send out. And so it creates a really personal a feeling, you know, it's a product. I always say it's a product with a soul. You can see it's being made with love and pride, and people love to pick it up and touch it and feel it. So any unique sort of gift store, jewelry shop, there's a place for our products everywhere. And the younger generations coming through are very educated now on fair trade.
They really are.
Yeah, they are. So the future is really bright for fair trade, which is terrific.
Funnily enough, 2 episodes ago, I interviewed my own daughter, who had just done a sustainable business and social enterprise sort of founders course. Yeah, completely across it, completely understand it, and actually not even just understand it, the concept, but they actually, their value set very much aligns with it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic. Now, you've been in business for over 20 years, or on 20 years. You've had a lot of success, a lot of, I won't even say luck, but you've had a lot of good stuff happen.
Mm-hmm.
What's gone wrong though? Because like what I'd love is for those people thinking of starting a social enterprise, people are thinking of starting an ethical business, maybe just to learn something about, you know, what are some of the mistakes that either have been made or something that's gone wrong, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, you make wrong buying decisions all the time. Yep. You can't expect to get something 100% right. When we deal with groups, we won't just buy one product. We might pick their 15 or 20 best products that they make. Sometimes you buy with your heart. And when you're in the country and you're dealing with the groups, and they look so fantastic there. Like a headscarf is a perfect example.
Yes.
You know, an African lady dressed up with African clothes and a massive headscarf just looks phenomenal. And yeah, these are going to sell like crazy. Put them on me and it looks ridiculous. So you can get a little bit carried away with just how lovely something is and how much it means to people. And so you can buy things that are hard to sell. That's where the retail side of things is really good, because we can then sell them off obviously below what it's cost us, but it just moves things through and you learn a lesson.
Yeah. And that's that learning the whole stock turning philosophy that had, it's in every retail business. Anyone who's like in there for a long period of time understands that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, timing is very important. Your worst nightmare is getting all your Christmas stock on the 20th of December, which happens. I know every single wholesaler I have met has had a shipment arrive at some point. Now, it was supposed to arrive in November, but at the end of the day, when they finally got it, it was then. So it only happens to you once. But, you know, for me, I hate to put deadlines on product arrival, because people hang on that, and it can vary by 6 weeks, 2 months. So now I'll be very shady and say, oh, it'll be late April.
So that's one of the tips, like literally give yourself enough grace and enough room to actually, for those mistakes to happen. Is there any other tips you'd give to someone who is starting out?
I would say, start slowly. Cash flow is always a really big issue in any business. You can buy a lot quickly and spend a lot of money very quickly and very easily. Turning that over and making that work for you is much, much harder. The first 2 years, or really the first 5 or 6 years of any business, I think is the hardest, just balancing your cash flow and knowing what you need and when it's to be available and how much funding you need to get product on the ground. So I would say, try a bit of trial and error first without going in and deciding to take over the world in one fell swoop. Just build it cautiously if you can, regardless of how quickly you think you need to get going.
And you see that happen in all sorts of retail businesses in particular, because there are seasonal trends and they don't know what the seasonal trends are. Then suddenly they've got to get rid of a large amount of stock when they don't want to, and then they haven't got enough when they need it, you know, all these sort of things.
Yeah. And we do try with all our groups, we have an arrangement, an agreement that if we buy enough volume of their products, then we're their representative in Australia. People can't go directly to a guy in a small village. I mean, that's not going to work. They can't deal with them.
Yep.
Having good relationships with your suppliers and having people trust you and you trust them is really essential. You don't need a legal document to make that work. You just need to both be on the same page and discuss what you want out of the arrangement and what you can, because you need to fulfill your obligation for your groups as well.
And I think it was good that when you said earlier, like, it's about building that relationship before actually getting into a business relationship, because then you know who the people are. Can I work with them? Can they work with me? Are they going to keep the word, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. So
what's the future look like for community projects worldwide? Where are you headed next?
Oh, look, it's been an interesting year.
Correct.
All our groups went into lockdown. So when we went into lockdown in March, we live in Queensland, so we have been extremely fortunate, much more fortunate than most other states in Australia. But when it first started in March, who knew where it was going to go?
Yep.
And so we sort of put the brakes on a bit then, thinking, okay, let's just see how this pans out. All our groups in Swaziland, South Africa and Kenya, where we were trying to put together a container, all went into lockdown, and they went into hard lockdown for at least 2 months.
I know the feeling.
yeah, and it was terrible. A lot of the groups, they sent all their, if they were in a major city like Johannesburg or Nairobi, they sent their workers back home to country so that they weren't in a built-up area because they didn't have any work anyway. So when it started to open up in May, we quickly got together and put together an order for Christmas stock, which has been quite rushed, but fortunately we've got stock, which is fantastic.
Hey. Well
done. So, and our groups are happy. So next year we are thinking that, we're ordering again now. Our groups are so grateful for any order that they get through. There's going to be people that just don't make it. They not physically, but from a business point of view, that they just haven't been able to withstand, no government support and no money. So next year, we want to order a lot for our customers. We'd like to actually take the opportunity to expand.
Yep.
And it means a lot more work.
It always does.
Yeah, but and so that's where we're looking. That's where we're looking at the moment. Just finding more groups. Unfortunately, there'll be no international travel for us.
Yeah.
But we're well poised because we do know our groups well, and we can speak to them on phone or FaceTime, and we know the quality of their goods, and they know us. So, next year's going to be very interesting. I've got a funny feeling they may go back into another hard lockdown.
Yeah, but I love your attitude to it. I think the fact that you adapted, you moved quickly, and were able to keep those communication lines open was probably the only reason you've got Christmas stock here now. So congratulations on that. Now we will need to wind up. Unfortunately, there's so much I'd like to ask you more about your business, but where can people find out more about community projects worldwide?
Yeah, well, we've got a great online website, which is www.communityprojectsworldwide.com.au. We've got I know it's a bit long. But when you shorten it, it means nothing. So we've also got a great Facebook site, which shows lots of videos and stories about our groups, and Instagram. So we're sort of across all the channels.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, look, fantastic business, great story. It was fantastic to speak to you today. Really appreciate you being on the episode. Yeah,
thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It was great.
No problem at all. Now, for everyone else who's watching at home, obviously, Moral Fairground have worked with me to actually put this series together. So make sure you go and check out moralfairground.com.au. For anyone who wants to check out more about what I've got or the podcast, you can subscribe at russellpearson.com. Until next time, stay passionate, and I'll catch you on the next one.
you.